Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this TradeStation Masterclass. Today, we're going to highlight some custom studies that we share with our TradeStation clients and a custom workspace that is all based on candlestick analysis and candlestick pattern recognition. Today's title is precisely that, Advanced Candlestick Pattern Recognition Techniques. What I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone. It should only be done with risk capital. We should all be aware of the risks that are associated with trading online. And of course, past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. Anybody that needs a little bit more information on these disclosures, go to www.tradestation.com/important-information. All right. I'm going to share with class, in just a moment, a PDF. All right, it's right there in the chat window. It's in the form of a link. When you click on it, the PDF should automatically download into your downloads folder. That's where it's intended to go. So if you don't see anything pop up, just after you click on the link, you can go to the downloads folder and see if it's there. It's a PDF titled Advanced Candlestick Pattern Recognition. And what it does, it just provides you information on each one of the candlestick recognition studies that are part of the TradeStation platform. Of course, we're not going to sit here and go through each one of those because that's not the purpose of this class, but it is to give you some information about how TradeStation handles candlestick, how you should look at all the studies that are part or supplied with the TradeStation platform, and how we can make that experience a little bit better for anybody that's looking for candlestick analysis. So you're going to see that the PDF that I just shared with everyone here has slides, which are what you see here on the screen, on each one of the candlestick studies that are supplied with the TradeStation platform. So before we go into, and I mean, you can go through all of these and find what the definitions of these are. Let me go here to the platform and show you where they are first so that you can use it as a reference or as a guide, because the way that the patterns are listed in the PDF is the way that the studies show up in the list of analysis techniques. They are in alphabetical order, so sometimes they are going to be a little bit out of sequence, but it's just because we use an alphabetical order to list them. But let me go here to my TradeStation platform. All right, I have a chart here of Costco, and all you need to do is go here to studies, click on Add Study, and one characteristic of these candlestick recognition studies is that they're not indicators. So you're going to find them inside of the Show Me category, which is a kind of a proprietary style of indicator that TradeStation designed that will mark bars or candlestick that meet certain criteria. In this case, if the study finds that a candlestick formation is recognized, then it'll mark it and show it to you on the screen. The first one that we saw here in the PowerPoint is called 3 white soldiers and 3 white crows. So if I go here to my list of show me's, I can see that the very first one that is listed is that one precisely. In the list of study, the names are going to be sort of abbreviated and combined, but you do see the 3 white soldiers and the 3 black crows. One thing to make these studies kind of separated from the rest is that they have a C and an underscore at the very beginning of every candlestick study, so that they're grouped together. Remember that the studies inside of the TradeStation platform are sorted in alphabetical order. So in order to have all those candlestick recognition studies together, we provided a C right at the beginning of the name. So all these that have a C in front of it are show me's that allow you to identify the pattern that follows it, whether it is, the 3 white soldiers, if you're looking for an abandoned baby, or a bullish engulfing, a lot of these names are kind of fun when you hear them, right? But you have all different analysis, candlestick formations that you can identify. Let's go ahead and add this one right here, because the way that these show me's show up on the TradeStation platform may be a little bit confusing for anybody that's using the platform for the first time. But let me go ahead and add this one. I'm going to click OK. And I just added it to my screen, and from a visual aspect, nothing happened on my chart. So you may sit there and wonder, okay, what happened to my chart? Where are the three white soldiers? Let's go ahead and squeeze the chart a little bit. Okay, I don't see anything. Let me turn the chart into a daily chart, because a lot of times, if the show me does not find the pattern, then it won't show on the chart. So you may think that nothing happened, but in reality, the indicator went in there, calculated, analyzed all the historical data that's on the chart, and did not find the pattern in all the history provided. I mean, that could be the case. Another thing that could be happening is the color of the dot, because the show me's, I'm not sure if you're familiar with show me's in TradeStation, but they are these type of studies that will mark the bar or the candlestick with a little dot, and the dot sometimes will be right on top of the candle. And if you're not really careful at looking at the candles, you may miss the difference in color. I believe the default colors sometimes are cyan or kind of magenta, but in this case, I'm looking at Costco and I don't see the show me at all. So let me go ahead and switch the symbol to something different. And okay, now I see a lot of stuff, but it's not what I was looking for. I went over here to Spider, and since it's a symbol that I use in my lot of trading examples when I show the trading tools instead of the platform, I do see a lot of trading activity, but I'm going to disable that by just right-clicking on one of those arrows and disable account orders and positions. And thus, as a parenthesis, it has nothing to do with candlesticks, but if you're looking at a chart and it has all these entries and exits that you want to get rid of, maybe because you want to concentrate on analysis, or you're just embarrassed of your trades, like most of the time I am, you can just hide those by right-clicking on those arrows and then disable account orders and positions. And that way it cleans up your chart of all the trading activity that you have in history. But again, I just switched here my chart to Spider, and I still don't see the candlestick. I'm sorry, I don't see the candlestick recognition playing. Now, let me go here to studies and go to add study again, because maybe the one that I selected, it's hard or difficult to occur, like the three white soldiers, like it's a very sporadic type of formation. So what I do many times is do something like a very simple, like a doji, which happens a lot. If you know the concept behind a doji, is just when the opening and the closing price are really close to each other, and then there's a tail above and below that relationship. So the body of the candle, it's very thin. By the way, one of the pages in that PDF, or one of the slides on my PowerPoint, describe the doji precisely as that. Let me go ahead and add it here to my list of studies. And that is going to be a study that appears many times. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I do see some little yellow dots on some of my candles. Yes, the dots by default are small. So that's we go back to what I said earlier. If you're not really paying attention, you may miss the dot. So these are the show me's. These are the ones that identify the doji formation. Now, doji is just one direction. It's not bullish or bearish. There may be some variations of the formation that have different names. Like I saw a doji star or something that can be separated into bullish and bearish. But in this particular case, a doji is just one direction, is like a neutral pattern that shows up on your chart. And of course, it may indicate many things. When I apply the study here to the chart, the default color is already set. I can modify, the show me so that it provides you a bigger circle or a different color. I can right-click on that little circle, or I can go here to studies and edit studies. And if I go to edit studies, I see the two show me's that I added, the three white soldiers with the three black crowds. I mean, that's one study that identifies two formations, and then I have the doji. But if I go to customize here for the doji, I'm able to go to style and make the circle thicker. That's one of the first things that I do, usually when I'm a presentation like that. And if the yellow is not a contrasting color against the yellow or the red, you can change it. Let me go here to color and let me do this blue. I think that'll contrast very nicely. I'm going to click OK and then click on close. And then you can see how that blue dot will appear across. Oh, almost knocked over another microphone that was here. I'm a little bit too emphatic with my hands. So yes, you can see all the blue circles in the history of the chart. These are all the dojis. But again, the circle that I have here on my chart is a little intrusive in the sense that it's covering a big chunk of the candlestick. Even if I open up the chart and expand the view, I can see that, that covers the whole doji formation. Many times what I want to do is kind of shift the plotting of that candlestick either higher or lower so that it's not covering the candlestick. I mean, you can do that programmatically too. It's a shame that all the built-in show-me's inside of the TradeStation platform don't do that automatically. So this is something that you're going to have to kind of work with to make it, the way that you want. So let's say, for example, I made my show-me larger and I made it blue. Now the problem is that I don't want the dot to be right on top of the candle covering it. I want to shift it either a little bit higher or a little bit lower. We all know that we can do that in easy language, right? If you haven't heard of easy language is TradeStation's proprietary programming language. It allows you to modify and change anything that is provided with the TradeStation platform, which is something really eye-opening because everything, strategies, indicators, everything is written in easy language. So going in there and having the ability to modify it, opens up the doors to many things you can do with the TradeStation platform. So let's go ahead and try to move that dot and shift it over either to the top or to the bottom by going into the easy language of this doji candlestick formation show me. Let's go and right click on it. Usually I do a lot of right clicking and double clicking. Of course, you can go through the menus up here, but who wants to do that, right? I tend to highlight the shortcuts, which makes your use of the TradeStation platform easier. So I'm going to right click on one of those dots, and I'm going to go to this option that says Edit Easy Language for C Doji. C is the name of the doji show me. So it opens up the code. This is the code for the doji. It may be a lot of text, but a lot of times, the green text is just notations. You can see here at the top that it says Candlestick Show Me Study that marks doji bars. Let's go ahead and see something here. I'm going to scroll down so we can see the function for the doji. If the doji happens, then it's going to begin into doing something. A lot of these variations in the code is because the doji show me can be used inside of charting, and it can also be used inside of radar screen. But if I'm looking to shift the plot of this dot, what I'm looking for is this plot statement. Anytime you go into a show me code and you're looking to identify the line that really draws the show me, is this one right here, plot number 1. Many times I like to have reference rows on the left-hand side of my document. It allows me to identify the line that I'm changing. And that way I can say, oh, let's go ahead and look at line 185, and you know exactly what line that is. Reference rows can be added here to my code by going into Tools. I think it's Options. Let me go here to Tools, Options, General. Okay, and it's not called reference rows, it's called line numbers. So you put a check here next to line numbers, then you click OK. And then you have these numbers appear on the left-hand side. And I can say, I'm going to change line number 37 where the plot statement is. Now, inside of a plot statement for a show me, the show me is expecting for you to tell where to put the dot. And the word close in here just means that the dot is going to be drawn or stamped right on top of the closing price of the bar. And that explains why when I look at the show me on my TradeStation platform, that blue dot was right smack on top of my candle, but I can move it. I can do something very easy here. I can do +1. So what this will do, it'll add 1 whole point to the closing price. Of course, that could work. Let's go ahead and see if it works for the symbol that we're looking at. I'm just going to add the +1, and the next step here is going to be verify. I'm just going to click on the verify button up here, and I'm going to see what effect that had, or that +1 had, on my TradeStation platform. Let me go here to TradeStation. Okay, and you can see where the dot is. It's a little bit shifted. You can see that it's not covering the close, but that 1 point that we added wasn't quite enough for this symbol. This is a spider. Spider, you know, 1 point movement is not really that much, considering that the shares are priced at $534. But if we shift the symbol, if I change the symbol to something like, let's go to AT&T. Now you can see the blue dots are way farther away from the candle because we're adding a whole point. So you can see that adding a 1 is not a perfect solution, because depending on the symbol you're looking at, sometimes the dot is going to be very far away, and some other times it's still going to be on top of that candle, like it is for, what was it? Was I looking at spider? I wasn't looking at spider. Well, spider, yes. You can see how the dot's still covering part of the candlestick. So our solution for this type of issue is to add something in relationship to the symbol that you're looking at. So instead of adding a 1, I can add the range of the candle. Range is a function instead of easy language. It calculates, you know, the difference between the high and the low. And I'm using that amount to add it to the close. So if I verify this and I go back here to my TradeStation, you can see how the dot is a little bit closer to the candle, or a little further away for spider. But if I go back here to AT&T, where it was really far away, it is still, you know, a little bit closer, because now we're using the range of the bar, which is different for each one of the symbols. So I like to use range, or a portion of the range. You can multiply the range by half or something, you know, but it does shift that show me dot either higher or lower. If I wanted that dot to be below the candle instead of the top, all I need to do is come here to the code and change this plus to a minus. Verify, and then if I go back to TradeStation, you can see how the dots are at the bottom. Now, this is going to be true for every show me that you put on the chart. Some of them will have this type of syntax already built in, so that it kind of removes the dot from on top of the bar. But if you're having that issue where the dot is right on top of the closing price, you can use this small syntax, modify the easy language so that it changes the position of that dot. So I was saying that, yes, the doji is a pattern that is easy to find because it happens a lot. You know, it's just the difference between the open and the close. Different than the other one that we added, which is the 3 white soldiers, maybe was a little bit more complex. And that's why a little bit more difficult to find in the historical data. Let me go back here to my PowerPoint, because I wanted to show you that, yes, in the PowerPoint, which is the same PDF that I have here in the chat, if you haven't clicked on it, let me go ahead and paste it there one more time. That's our PDF. You have all this information. What the PDF does, it provides a description of what the formation is. So like, for example, here's the abandoned baby. It tells you what it implies. It may signal a reversal of a downtrend. At least the bullish abandoned baby may be the reversal of a downtrend, and is composed of 3 price bars. For most of these pages, I provide screenshots of what the pattern may look like. Sometimes may be easy to understand, sometimes not. You can see how in this blue dot, which is a show me, is giving me the abandoned baby. Now, I am in sort of a downtrend. I don't see it very clearly here because the screenshot only captured 3 historical bars before the abandoned baby was identified, but it may signal a reversal of this downtrend. But it's composed of 3 price bars. And you're going to see this for every candlestick formation. And we're just going to go through this so that we can understand, some of this information. The first is a large down candle followed by a doji candle that gaps below the first candle. Interesting criteria, sometimes difficult to find. What this is trying to say is that you're going to have a big down candle, but I can see it right here on the screenshot. This red candle is a big down candle. And then you're going to have a doji after it. This is a doji right here because the difference between the open and the close is really small. You see the doji right there. And that doji needs to have gapped from that very first candle. You can see a kind of a gap here between the the low and the high here. It's not really the same, and it created a very small gap, but still met the criteria of the abandoned baby, and that's why this is marked right here. I just met the criteria, and I mark it. The next candle opens higher than the doji and moves aggressively to the upside, which is exactly what happened here. So big down candle, doji that gaps down, and then a big candle that moves up. That is an abandoned baby on the bullish side. And then you have the criteria on the bearish side, which is very similar. We see a big up candle before the abandoned baby. We see the doji, which gaps up. And then we have a huge red candle on the other side, giving you that big push in the opposite direction. So every show me will have, these bullet points with information on how it's identified, or at least how it's calculated on TradeStation, because I've seen that, in my study of candlestick formations, that sometimes you're going to find that there's variation in the criteria and not much. The basis of the pattern is there, but a lot of times the criteria may not be precisely the same. Like, for example, this small gap may not be part of the criteria, and I can see that across different platforms. So we try to maintain our criteria as close as possible to the original concept or idea behind these candlestick formations, because this is not something that TradeStation invented. If you're a candlestick formation follower, you know that those have been around for ages. You find books, you find online documentation, you find a ton of educational resources on how to study these candlestick formations. So maybe this is not a place for me to try to explain what these are, since there's so much information out there. But the candlestick does provide you with the way that TradeStation, or the criteria that is used in each one of them. And as I said before, I also provide sort of a screenshot on the left-hand side with information on how to identify them. But the purpose of this class is also to arm you with something custom. So this is in reference to all the ones that are supplied with the TradeStation platform. So when you go over here to studies and you go to add studies, those are the ones you're going to find here under show me, and they're all going to be the ones that have a C in front of its name. All the ones that are listed here are in that PDF, and you're welcome to save it as a reference guide, and it explains every single one. We do have one that I'm providing to everyone here. Let me just go to my files. I'm going to share with everyone here a link to a zip folder. Different than the PDF, this will download a zip folder. The folder will contain 2 items. It will have a TradeStation workspace, and it'll have a custom study. So let me pull up what that will look like here on the screen. Let me just go over here and set it up before I show you this, but let me open up that file. Let me hide some of the, All right, and let me bring this over here. This is what you'll see inside of that zip folder. All right. Two files. There is a kind of a green looking icon, and the other one is a blue. The blue one is a TradeStation workspace. You can see the type here. And the other one is an easy language document, which provides you the custom indicator. Before you open up the workspace, you're going to have to install the indicator. Now, I can double click from within a zip folder. Right here, I'm inside of a zip folder, and it allows me to open up the files from within. I think that is depending on how your Windows is set up. I know that some computers may not allow you to open up files from within a zip folder. But if that's the case, if you're able to open up the zip folder, but you're not able to open them, just copy the file and put it somewhere else. Put it inside of your documents folder, or you can put it on your desktop. But a lot of times, computers may block some of these zip folders. It's the only way that we can share, these custom studies through Zoom. Otherwise, it'll just reject the file. And that's why we use the zip format to share those files. So you're going to find two things there. And the first thing you need to do is double click on the easy language document. Why? Because the workspace has the custom study already applied to it. And if you try to open up the workspace first, it'll try to use that custom study without you having it. And it'll try to open and say, hey, you don't have this study, and it's gonna tell you that it's been deleted. So you first have to install the custom study before you open up the workspace. But it's very easily done. I can just double click on that easy language document. If my TradeStation is already open, and I usually tend to have my TradeStation open before I double click on these type of files, because when you do that, it automatically launches the import wizard, allowing you to import that indicator into your platform. You're going to see the contents of that file is a function and a show me, which is totally fine. Both things are checked. That's the way that I wanted, and I just want to click next. Then it has the available studies, and over here we have two show me's. You can see a show me that's called the MC4 Masterclass, Candlestick Patterns, CH for charting, and RS for radar screens. We have two separate studies, and they're designed to work on both applications. This full moon show me, I'm not sure how it got there. It shouldn't have been there. What I wanted to share with everyone is just the two candlesticks. Maybe this got added accidentally, but this is a show me that I believe marks every candlestick when there's a full moon. There's been many studies that talk about how a full moon affects traders and trading activity. And this show me was designed for that purpose, so that it marks the bar whenever there's a full moon, and you would be attentive to that. Many things happen when there's a full moon out there. Okay, so ignoring the full moon show me, let's just concentrate on the candlestick ones. And I'm just going to click on finish. And this is I'm going to say it already exists on my TradeStation. And that's why I have to say yes to all here. But it's going to go through the list. It's going to give you kind of a reminder. Functions and studies will be automatically transferred as well. Just click OK to that. And you're going to see the progress bar of all the studies being imported into your TradeStation. There it is. And I get this confirmation window that says you have successfully imported your studies. I click OK, and that's it. Now the custom study has been installed on my TradeStation. And now I can go back to my folder, and right here I can double click on the workspace, which will open up automatically, and it'll use that study that I just imported. Okay, so what's good about this study that you are importing into your TradeStation is that it already combines all the candlestick pattern recognition studies that are supplied with the TradeStation platform. Maybe not all of them, because I know that recently I'm not talking about, this year, maybe a few years ago. I know that the list of show me's was enhanced, and they are developers, engineers, they added a whole bunch of new candlestick pattern recognition studies or show me's, and they may not be inside of this indicator, which is okay, but it does provide you with many of the most popular ones. But the nice thing about this study as well is that it has them all in one. Not only has them all in one, but instead of a dot, it gives you a little cross, similar to the dot that we talked about. But this is just a different style. It changes the style. It picked a cross. It's already moved away from the candlestick. But in addition to that, it gives you a label of what the formation is. When I was on my chart here, yes, I'm looking at the blue dot, and I remember that I added the doji, and that's what the doji is. But if you had the doji here, and you had the three white soldiers or the hanging man or the hammer all in one chart, they would all be different colored dots, and it would be difficult to identify which one's which. So this custom study that we're providing to you has labels that are printed along with the cross. So here I can see the bearish engulfing formation. I can see here at the bottom a morning star. I can see a doji. Over here on the far right, I can see a hanging man. So it does provide you a little bit more information than the regular show me's that are there. Not only are you able to put them here inside of a chart, but you're also able to put them here inside of radar screen. In radar screen, it's pretty cool because now you can put it in a list of symbols and see what the overall market sentiment is based on candlestick formations. If you see a lot of bullish formations on the symbols, that may be an indication that the market's either in a strong uptrend or it's about to change trend to the upside. But it's a good way to look at market sentiment and see what the bar formations are. This radar screen is not automatically sorted, but I can sort by the indicator, and you can see that it groups all the alerts into the show me. One of the things about the show me in radar screen, this is something that you have to pay attention to, is that if the symbol does not meet the criteria of the show me, it's going to be blank. So don't think that, oh, my radar screen is not showing the study for some of my symbol. It's just that the show me's behavior is precisely that, to show you something if something's happening only. So if it's not happening, it'll just be blank. It won't have anything. And what I did here is I sorted by the values in the column. So if there's a value, all those values are going to be grouped together. Now, by looking at, all the candlestick formations that are happening right now, I may not have a clear market sentiment because I see a lot of magenta, which is my bearish signals. I see many that are kind of greenish, which is my bullish signals. And I see my gray ones, which are more of a neutral type of candlestick formation. But if there was a big shift in the market, a lot of these indicators or a lot of these a lot of these symbols would be displaying a very similar bar formation based on that price movement. I see the question from Nick, does it alert in radar screen? In scanner. That's a good question, Nick, because this indicator right here is designed to give you real-time signals. In fact, you can see sometimes that the signals pop up and they go away because as the market moves in real time, the formation may be true or not at any given moment. So if I click, for example, on diamonds here, I can see that there is a hammer being formed right here on the screen. Now, if the shape of this candle changes and the market moves and the hammer is not identified anymore, then the little cross, it'll be removed. Actually, I lost my hammer kind of designation there. The same happens here if I go to spider you can see, oh, Spider, you see the hanging man disappeared as we were speaking. Oh, there we go. Now it pops up again. So there's a hanging man that shows and goes away depending on real-time market activity. So if you were to use it in Scanner, one thing that you have to keep in mind is that Scanner calculates as of the most recent closed candle. So in a daily formation like we're looking at right now, Scanner would be able to tell you which symbols are showing a candlestick formation on yesterday's bar. One of the things that you have to keep in mind for Scanner is that it looks at a closed candle. Of course, you can set the study to calculate on intra-bar, like 5 minute, and then you'll have, if there's a candlestick formation in the past 5 minutes, that's something you can do. But if you're doing your analysis on daily bars, just keep in mind that Scanner is not going to give you a real-time calculation on the technical studies. It's only going to be using the closing price of the prior bar. What else can I tell you about this study? Oh, there's a couple things that I need to tell you about this study. And let's go here to the settings to explain. I'm going to go here to studies, edit studies, and I'm going to go here to, yeah, this key reversal should not be here as well. I should have cleaned up the workspace before sending it to you. I apologize for this additional key reversal. It has nothing to do with candlestick patterns. So I'm going to highlight my candlestick pattern study. I'm going to click on customize here on the right-hand side. And I'm going to go here to the inputs. There's a couple things here that everyone needs to be aware of. There's a length component, percent, and factor. The top three inputs here are used by some of the candlestick recognition criteria. Not all of them, but some of them. Like, for example, length. I can't remember what the name of the study or the formation is that uses length. But if you're interested and you want to know which of the candlestick formations uses length, I did something. I'm going to show it to you so you can do it also on your side if you want to. But what I did is I went to the easy language of this study because, yes, it is available for you to look at. It is available for you to modify. So let me go over here to my development environment. Oh, I think I closed it. Let me go ahead and open it. This indicator, it's a show me. So let me go over here to my show me's. And it's called @MC Candlestick Charting. Let me open it. All right, so the code here is pretty long. If I scroll all the way down, you're going to see that there's almost 500 lines of code. But you can search for words. You can see that the inputs are at the top. So we mentioned length, percent, and factor. One thing that you can do is do Control F, and this will launch the find utility. And I can search for length. Length. There we go. I can find it. And there we go. It highlights wherever it finds it. And you can see that length is a parameter that is used in morning star or evening star formation. It uses length because I believe one of the criteria is that the bar needs to be bigger than the average or smaller than the average of ranges. So it has to look at historical data, create some sort of an average, and that's part of the criteria. So the morning star and the evening star uses length. If you're looking at percent, for example, and you're wondering, well, which one of the formations uses percent? Well, I can search for the word percent here rather than having to read, the 500 lines. I'm going to find it. And you can see that percent gets highlighted here for the morning doji or the evening doji. The percent is important inside of the doji because a doji tells you where a doji gets formed whenever the opening and the closing price are the same. If they're exactly the same, if it closes at exactly the same price of the opening, then you have a perfect doji, right? But sometimes there is a little bit of a wiggle room. Is like how, because if it's just a tick or two ticks away from each other, it would still be considered a doji. So that wiggle room, that space that you provided, that is what you're controlling here with a percent. What percent of the whole range needs to be in the difference between the open and the close for this bar to be identified as a doji? Notice that it's set to 5%. So it has to be 5% of the full range. Of course, you can make that more restrictive so that the opening and the close are closer to each other and reduce the percentage. If you set it at 0, it's just going to look for that straight difference that they has to be exactly the same. But 5% just gives you a little bit of wiggle room. And the factor here, it's very similar. If I search for factor, notice that that's being used in hammer and hanging man, which is also used in the criteria because the body or the tail, I'm not sure which one it is, but the tail needs to be twice as big as the body, or the body needs to be twice as big as the tail. And that too is what controls that factor. By default, it's set to 2, which is, the concept behind the hanging man or the hammer, but you can always make it bigger if you want a bigger factor. So those inputs do control some of those rules, and I just wanted to make sure that you understood why they were there: length, percent, and factor. The display offset percentage just controls, where the label is being plotted. You can play around with that percentage. Inside, outside, these are bar formations that are very common. And we provided an input so that you can turn those on or off. If you set them to on, you're going to get a lot of plots on the chart. Let me show you. Let me turn this into true. So the opposite of true, the opposite of false is true. And then I click on close. You're going to see a lot of outside, 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 because it happens a lot. It's a very common formation. And then you see all the insides, insides, insides. So if you wanted to remove those, because you want to concentrate on the ones that are a little bit more complex, you can always do that by turning this to false, and it'll hide, the inside or outside candles. Okay, that's all that does. Let me right click here. And then you have a way to specify what the up color, the down color, or the neutral color are going to be, especially here in radar screen. If you don't like that greenish or that purple to identify bullish or bearish formations, you can change those in radar screen as well. Are there any questions on these studies or what I'm supplying with you? It's a great way to have all those studies in one place. If you wanted to add the newer ones into the study, that's something that you can do. A lot of the candlestick studies that we provide with TradeStation are built in as functions. So if I go back here to my code, you're going to see, these functions, the one that appear in purple, are already programmed. You just have to supply certain parameters, and that's the way that you plot, or that's the way that you make these candlestick formations work. So you can see that we don't have everything. I believe that on the PDF that I provided you, we have probably some additional 20. So maybe you can expand the code a little bit more by just following this same concept. All right, that's my class for today. Thank you so much for joining me today. Oh, one thing that I wanted to remind you of, and don't leave me without saying this, allow me to say this. Tomorrow, we have that special presentation with the OIC, the Options Industry Council. Matt Cashman, who is a representative from the council, is going to join us at 2 p.m. in the afternoon for a special options presentation. If you haven't registered yet, go to the events page inside of the TradeStation website. And that's, of course, here under Learn Events. Scroll down a little, and then you're going to find our options event. Okay, it popped up right here. This blue box that is at the bottom right is our webinar for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Make sure you register and join us for that presentation. Again, have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.